that's what the USGS is saying, and it has added silver to the list of critical minerals, at least in a draft version. Gold futures are exploding. We're trading around 35.40, and silver is over $41.40 in the futures market. Spot looks just as good, of course, slightly lower, and we've invited a fantastic guest to discuss the latest moves. Gold was trading without an impulse, silver just as much, just in recent weeks, but just last week, at the end of last week, things started happening. Gold broke out, silver broke out, and we'll discuss why that happened. But before I switch over to my guest, who is Mario Innecco, by the way, I forgot to mention, really excited to have him on. He runs a phenomenal YouTube channel with some great commentary, at Innecco64 on YouTube. Go check that out afterwards. And quick reminder, hit that like and subscribe button. Helps us out tremendously, and we much appreciate it. Now, Mario, it's great to have you back on the program. It's good to see you again.
Nice to see you too, Kai.
Yeah, really looking forward to the next 30 minutes with you here, Mario. Lots has happened just over the weekend, it feels like. But maybe we'll start at the top. Like I mentioned, we might already be in a new gold standard environment. And I stole that, I have to admit, from one of your videos that you published, I think, over the weekend. And maybe elaborate on that topic a little bit, because it's a hot topic.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't really technically been on a gold standard since like around World War I, and even Bretton Woods was a gold exchange system. But the reason I mentioned that is that recently we've seen that gold reserves by foreign central banks have overtaken the dollar for the first time since I think 1996, and the trend looks set to continue. And the other thing as well is that all the major BRICS countries and a lot of other countries, Poland, for example, as well, they're loading up on gold as reserves for their central banks. I think the world is realizing they can't not just depend on the dollar as a major reserve asset, but also they can't really take the risk of having too many dollars as reserves, as it's been used more and more as a weapon. So the only thing left after that is gold. Gold is the only neutral monetary reserve asset that's been around for thousands of years. And the reason the dollar was ever a major, or still is kind of a major reserve currency, is because it used to be as good as gold. So that's why I mentioned that. And I think we're going to go back to a standard, a gold standard anyway, because what we have now is dying. I don't buy into stable coins, because all they're going to back that with is more and more fiat currency debt, which I think if fiat currencies go, that's going to go too.
Let's talk stablecoins here in a minute. Let's stay on gold for a second. What triggered the price rally? Like I mentioned in the intro, it felt like gold over the summer was just moving sideways, or actually since May or so, it's been moving sideways in a very tight range. But now it broke out at the end of the week. Was there a specific trigger, or like what led to the kettle finally boiling here?
Well, on a technical basis, I think that consolidation since April was necessary, because gold was overbought. It rallied like from 2,600 to 3,500 in like 4 months in the beginning of the year. So it's normal that it consolidates. And we also saw, like a few weeks ago, it try to break out of this symmetrical triangle, which is on an upward trend. It's usually a consolidation of the previous trend. But in technical analysis, only like 3 out of 4 times it keeps going the same direction of the trend, which was up. There is a chance that it might fail. So it didn't fail. What do I think triggered it in terms of fundamentals or outside events, outside technical analysis? I think it could have been the speech by Chairman Jay Powell at the Jackson Hole Symposium a week or two ago, where he said that the Fed's ready to cut in September. And then you mentioned before we came on about Fed board member Waller. He said that depending on where non-farm payroll comes out at this Friday, we could see a jumbo cut. So he's implying that if we see a very weak non-farm payroll, like we did last month, and also weak revisions, they could cut more than 25 basis points, because right now Wall Street, they're discounting an 87% chance of a 25 basis point cut on the 17th of September. But what is a jumbo cut? Could it be 1%? Or, I mean, they did a kind of a jumbo cut last September by 50 basis points, which surprised everyone. So I think that's why gold has started to take off geopolitically as well. I don't know if you want to go into that right now. It looks like President Trump has been able to unify BRICS even more, even though he's been very critical of BRICS. He's got two old arch rivals or enemies, China and India, to make peace again and start talking. So that's only going to solidify the BRICS movement and the move away from the dollar. And you move away from the dollar, there's only one place to go, gold.
Since we are on the topic of BRICS and maybe Shanghai Cooperation Organization, that name drives me nuts, by the way, saying it, because it's very complicated if you want to say it fast. So the SCO, there's a big meeting happening in Tianjin in China right now. It's also part of celebrating 80 years of defeating Japan in World War II, of course. What do you expect from that meeting to happen? The Financial Times and other Western media is covering it extensively, talking about potential setup of a development bank amongst the SCO member states. What are some of the ramifications economically that you see coming out of that summit?
Yeah, I think I mean, I haven't looked at the details. I know they're meeting there. I think the big take from this SCO is the fact that Modi from India has gone there for the first time in 7 years, because India has been a member of this SCO, but the relationship with China hasn't been very good. So I think just the fact that he's gone there is a good thing. And I'm not sure whether the SCO is going to really develop into like starting some kind of bank, like a national development bank. I think they already have that for the BRICS, the BRICS National Development Bank. So yeah, I think the SCO is more like I would say the NATO for BRICS maybe. So, but yeah, we have to wait and see if there are more statements coming out of this conference. I think Xi Jinping announced that his ambition is to reshape the world order. So I think they're very, how can I say, ambitious, but it's not surprising. I don't know if you remember, I think it was beginning of this year in January, or it could have been last year. Time goes by so quickly, but I don't know if you remember, Putin and Xi Jinping met somewhere in Moscow, and they're coming out of the Kremlin, and they said, well, this is going to be the biggest thing in 100 years. And we didn't know what it was. So maybe
do we know now?
Not yet, but maybe we'll hear something out of this summit.
Now, it's interesting. A lot of interesting members are participating in that summit. Kim Jong-un, Pakistan, Iran, sending their leaders. Like from a Western perspective, it sounds very scary when these countries meet, of course. What are your expectations coming out of it? Not just what you've heard, but what you expect to happen.
Yeah, I think in the West, unfortunately, well, or you might say fortunately, we consider these groups like BRICS and SCO like rivals to, let's say, G7 and NATO. So I was reading a few days ago, I think it was in the Telegraph here in the UK or the FT, saying that you've only got authoritarians attending this summit. But, you know, our leaders in in the West aren't that much better. Here in the UK, I can be arrested for saying something they don't like here on YouTube. So yeah, that's how the West sees it. But I think it's normal. These other nations, they've been under control of the West for hundreds of years, and now they've managed to get themselves out of poverty, and they've developed quite fast. They've got advanced economies, and they want like an equal say. Well, at least they wanted it, let's say, in the IMF and the UN and the World Bank. But that wasn't given to them because the West is not willing to share power. So that's what it leads to. Just like Trump being combative towards India has triggered Modi to make this rapprochement with the Chinese. So we've only got ourselves to blame in the West for a lot that's happening. Instead of, we could maybe be cooperating with these people and making the world a little more stable and peaceful. But unfortunately, that's not the modus operandi of the globalists in Brussels and Washington, D.C. and London.
Especially London. I've been hearing a lot that the center of all evil apparently is London, without just like, but maybe to connect or to sort of join the first topic that we discussed, was the gold standard, and now the SCO, BRICS. I think the U.S., or we are in general, the West is pushing, a new monetary system, as you said, and maybe gold-backed potentially as well. Do you expect that now to happen with the BRICS and the SCO? Do you expect something to come out of that? Is it going to be the renminbi that's going to be gold-backed, or is it going to be a new currency? What do you see? What are you hearing?
Yeah, I don't see anything like that coming out soon. But what I think they're working on is having a payment system for all the major BRICS and global South currencies, so they can pay each other without having to go through SWIFT. But what's going to happen, I think, is they're going to use gold as a settlement asset at the end of a fiscal year, or whenever, let's say, a country has a surplus with another country and they're holding on to loads of yuan, for example. They might say to the Chinese, give me some of the gold, I'll give you the yuan. I think that's what's going to happen. I don't see them going for a single currency. That's just that puts countries in the straitjacket. Look at the euro, which is a currency, a single currency for a continent that's fairly culturally similar. Even that has been really hard. Can you imagine having a single currency for all those BRIC nations in different continents? I can't, but I can imagine them using the same reserve asset, i.e. gold, because everyone recognizes gold as money, especially in those countries. It's only in the West that we've been brainwashed into thinking that gold is just a barbarous relic or a pet rock.
Yeah, those terms drive me nuts, quite honestly. No, but it's like maybe just on the BRICS itself, it seems like they're quite divided still, despite having probably the same goal, but they're quite divided. Like you brought up Modi traveling to China for the first time in like 7 years. India and China are not on the same page when it comes to many things. Could that be, like, how should we consider that?
Yeah, they are. And I mean, it's just like in the West, there are countries that are kind of not on the same page. France, for example, has always been very independent and willing to buck the trend. Don't forget, they were against the Iraq invasion in 2003. So there's always going to be, I think, divisions within BRICS, but I think the Americans are making it so difficult that the division is being swallowed, and it's making them cooperate. Just because you're part of a group doesn't mean to say that you're always going to agree on things. So that's how I see it.
Coming back to gold price itself, like there were, we jumped down the rabbit hole of the BRICS and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization because the summit is happening right now. But looking at the gold price, like, is it just a factor of not just technicals, but also maybe a weaker dollar, or are there any other factors pulling on the price of gold right now? Are you looking at anything else?
Yeah, I think so. The bond market throughout the West, and yeah, especially the longer end of the bond market, yields have been creeping up quite a bit. I mean, in Japan, we've seen the 30-year make all-time highs, and the only reason it's all-time highs, I guess, is because it only started being issued back in the late 90s. So yeah, it might still, I think, still has a lot of room to go, because if it had been trading prior to that, it probably would have been at 8-9%. But even the German 30-year is trading at multi-year highs. We've got here in the UK, the 30-year, as we speak here, is at a 2027 year high. And in the US, even though it might be benefiting a little bit from the troubles like in France and the UK, the 30-year in the US as well is approaching 5%. And what that's saying is that investors are not confident about all the debt that has to be taken on to keep this system going, and that they expect the currencies to continue to be debased. And I think that helps gold. In the past, people have said that higher yields are bearish for gold, but we've seen since 2022 that that is not the case. And it wasn't the case in the 70s either. And I think it's because we are in a bear market in bonds, and yields are going to keep going up. While from 1980 to 2020, we were in a bull market. So gold seemed to trade, let's say, inversely. If yields went up, gold went down. But now it's going the same direction because it's a bad kind of rise in yields.
This seems like a good time to come back to stablecoins, because the U.S. is working on introducing stablecoins to issue more T-bills or bonds as well. Let's be a bit more granular. What is your take on stablecoins? A lot of people have been quite negative on stablecoins, as it could be an extra rush to liquidity. I've been jokingly saying, well, I'm expecting the next meme stock rally here, or Reddit community crowdfunding and crowd pushing perhaps the stablecoins in the wrong direction, and Roaring Kitty coming back just to manipulate the U.S. The financial system here. But all jokes aside here, Mario, like, what could be the impact of stablecoins, and is that a new source of funding for governments, the U.S. in particular?
Well, I dealt in cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, years ago, and a lot of times if you're trading those things, you want to keep, let's say you make a profit, you want to put it back in fiat, and putting it in stable coins was convenient because it was supposedly back like Tether, 1-to-1 to the dollar. But what we've seen is that Tether has never been audited independently. And we found out a few years ago that they hold a lot of treasuries, some commercial paper. We don't even know what they hold, really. They don't really hold cash, Federal Reserve notes, 1-to-1. So that in itself is like, it's not very straightforward. But I think the U.S. government and the Trump administration are using this demand for a stable coin. And that used to be the case because the crypto exchanges, that whole ecosystem was separate from the main banking system. So they had to find something stable because they didn't want to put things back in the dollar. But now I think the powers that be have realized we can use this as an instrument to keep people trapped in our system because they're going to need these stable coins. Yeah, and they see that it could be like a huge source of demand for U.S. Treasuries, and it all has to do with what's going on with the dollar as a major reserve asset. People are abandoning it, and it's a last ditch effort, I think, by the Americans to try to keep people demanding treasuries. I think it's going to fail, because why can't other countries have their own stable coin? It's really simple. You could have a yuan stable coin or a euro stable coin. You don't have to have a dollar stable coin.
I think China is working on introducing something like that as well. They just had a bill in their Congress, National Congress, that was proposing something like that. Don't quote me on it exactly,
Yeah.
but I've been reading something
Yeah.
along those lines. So
That's how I see the stable coins. I wouldn't really. I mean, it's not really that stable, because it's tied to the dollar, and the dollar has lost 99% of its value in the last since 1971 anyway.
no, last, what is it, 53 years, 54 years, doing the
Yeah.
math in my head. So
Yeah.
no, absolutely. Mario, we have to talk silver. Silver, of course, finally broken out over $40. I think we can say the rally has been confirmed, and maybe the breakout has been confirmed now after 2 continuous days of trading above 40. What do you make of silver's breakout? What do you make of the price action, and is it sustainable?
I think so. And I was looking this morning at the high in 2011 and the low in 2019, the Fibonacci retracement, and we've gone through the 61.8% retracement. There's a 76.2 retracement, which is just below 42, but that's not a very important level. So there's not much resistance here until 50, which is a really key level. So I think it looks very good technically, silver. And I think we're going to start seeing some big moves higher, but also some sharp corrections down. So you need to be like ready for those. You might see $2, $3, $4, $5 moves higher, but you might see a corrections of the dollar downward too. But yeah, I think silver is ready to test that 50 level, and it will be the third time basically in 45 years. So, and I think we're going to break through there, and it's going to be very explosive once we do.
The breakout is fairly young in age, of course. I'm maybe asking a question that you might not be able to answer yet, Mario, but any feedback from the commercials? Are you seeing anything like in terms of their positioning? Has that changed? I know the COT report is not out yet as of last Friday, I believe. So I'm curious, like, are you hearing anything? Are you seeing any trends?
Well, I've read and listened to a few interviews, like people like Egon von Greyert saying that he can't source any physical silver for his clients in Switzerland. And yeah, I haven't looked at the commitment of traders yet, how the open interest did. So it's not something I follow very closely. Okay. But yeah, I think, yeah, there's a problem there, and we might see open interest not really go up that much, because the move higher might have been a lot of short covering. So that keeps the open interest neutral.
Now I'm visiting our sponsor Money Metals this Thursday, and they're North America's largest private depository. So I'll be getting some firsthand information on what it looks like on the back end as well, and what the commercials are doing here in terms of silver. I'm just trying to figure out like how much whether this market has legs, right? And it obviously has. I think I'm more trying to poke holes into the narrative here, just to see what the downside might be when it comes to it, because I think it's really easy to make a bull case, but bear cases are really difficult for me to come up these days. Like, do you see any bear cases for gold and silver right now, Mario?
No, I don't. I don't, because I don't see, aside from the fiscal and financial situation, there's also the geopolitical situation, which isn't great. especially as it relates to Ukraine and Russia and the EU. EU seems to be determined not to really push for peace. So that's another one. And as for the fiscal situation, they can't really do anything but try to keep pushing for more liquidity, lower rates, because the debt is gargantuan now, and in this system, if we allow the debt to give any hint that it's gonna liquidate, it's really bad for the system. So the the bigger the debt gets, the more serious it gets. So uh, I don't expect them to get religion, and by that I mean become like sound money advocates, advocates of peace, small government. I don't see that happening. So yeah, I'll hold on to my gold and silver until until I don't know when, but for
I was going to say, I don't have a counter argument. I can't even challenge you because I fully agree with what you're saying. There's just not a bear case inside, really, of course. World peace is the only one I could imagine. And even that only probably dips gold maybe $100 at best, and maybe silver a couple dollars. That's it. So we'll see. Mario, is like silver is being deemed critical by the USGS. At least it has been added to the draft list it is proposing in terms of critical minerals. How significant is that? And what are some of the ramifications, maybe even thinking about the miners in the US when it comes to silver?
Yeah, I mean, that is important. I'm surprised that it wasn't on that list before, because it's really important for the military, silver. So yeah, for the miners, I guess that's really important too. And I think President Trump signed an executive order just around the time he took power for the second time about natural resources. So I think the Americans are going to continue to push for this development and exploration of natural resources. And I think the world is becoming less and less, of course, globalized, and the supply chains are becoming more and more precarious. So yeah, the US, Canada, maybe not Europe, because we're still in this net zero philosophy. But a lot of places are going to start defending their natural resources. And like the dollar, for example, is not going to be accepted as much as it was prior to now. The US didn't care about natural resources because it could just use the dollar to buy properties and natural resources anywhere around the world. But now that's becoming a little less so, because people are moving away from the dollar, and they're trying to protect their resources because they want something of value in return for their resources. Maybe if the US starts paying in gold, they might open up a little more.
We debated that last time, whether there's even any gold in Fort Knox, and whether we believe the audits. That was a hot topic when we spoke about 5 months ago, Mario, if you remember. But maybe last couple of minutes, Mario, I just want to use to talk about the mining space in general. Just looking at some opportunities. What are your thoughts on the mining sector? And for me, primarily, that's the gold and silver miners. Newmont, second best performing stock in the S&P 500 so far this year, up 100% even. What do you make of the miners' performance, and what should we be looking forward to?
Yeah, I mean, the miners, they lagged quite a bit until recently, till this year, I think, and they're doing really well, and they still have a lot of potential. Excuse me, especially the junior miners. But the junior miners are different because they're riskier. So I think people should have a mix of both, the Newmonts and of the world, and the other ones, the juniors, but also silver. The silver miners, I think they have even more potential than the gold miners. And in terms of the balance between physical gold and silver and the miners, I'm always personally, I'm more conservative. I do have miners, but the bulk of what I have is in gold and silver. But yeah, I think the other thing about the miners, don't leverage because it's going to be leveraged enough just by yeah, because it's dangerous leveraging even in a bull market.
Absolutely. I fully agree. Mario, this is all we have time for. I need to invite you back very soon to catch up on what might be coming out of the SCO summit here in Tianjin and the celebrations for the 80-year anniversary of beating Japan in World War II here. Really interesting context. Mario, really appreciate your insights. Where can we send our audience to follow more of your work?
Yes, I'm on YouTube at Innecco64. I post a video or an interview every day. And I'm also quite active on X or Twitter at Innecco1964 is the handle there.
Fantastic. Mario, thank you so much for coming on. It's a great pleasure to catch up with you again, and we'll have to do this again soon. Thank you so much. And everybody else, thanks so much for tuning in to Soar Financially. Hope you enjoyed this conversation with Mario Innecco. If you did, go check out his YouTube channel, and of course, don't forget to leave a like and a comment down below. And if you haven't done so, hit that subscribe button as well. It helps us out tremendously. YouTube algorithm is a finicky beast these days, so we appreciate any support there. And it's free, of course, so we're not asking for any money from you either. Yeah, thanks so much for tuning in. We'll be back with lots more. Take care out there.